the day at an amusement park is fun. But come with us as we look beyond the fences. We'll find out who makes the scream machines we love and discover why we love them. We'll meet the master planners behind the good times and get a glimpse of the future of fun as we go inside the secret world of amusement parks. The modern amusement park is unique. Pure and uncomplicated fun in an increasingly complex world.
It's one of the very few things that the family can do as a unit. You can go to the beach with your family. You can go for a ride. You can go for a picnic. But a theme park combines all of those things in one day.
Nearly 200 million people a year visit U.S. theme parks. With the average admission price at $30, these parks gross over $6 billion annually. What was once an American phenomenon is now a global industry. During the Jazz Age, the public hungered for excitement and good times, and amusement parks reached the height of their popularity. The rides were thrilling and genuinely dangerous. The Depression ended the golden age of amusement parks, and for the next 30 years, their decline continued. It would take timing and one man's vision to turn things around. Disneyland's opening in 1955 revitalized the industry. Walt Disney understood what Americans wanted and gave it to them. Fantasy environments and wholesome family entertainment. Disney predicted that a public witnessing the space race in their living rooms was hungry for innovation at the park. He hired industrial engineer Ed Morgan and machinist Carl Bacon to create a new kind of coaster.
We said, well, it doesn't seem like it would be an impossible task.
Morgan and Bacon's radical design, the Matterhorn bobsled, was mounted on tubular steel tracks and carried lightweight fiberglass cars. The flexible track carried riders through hairpin turns and ended with a splash, something impossible on conventional wooden coasters. Disneyland inspired new amusement parks throughout the country. Morgan and Bacon's company, Aerodynamics, became the leading coaster design firm in the world.
The biggest single breakthrough in coaster technology was when Carl Bacon and my father designed the round pipe rail roller coaster. That was the first time that polyurethane wheels had been used on a round pipe.
Plastic polymer wheels gave these coasters a smoother, quieter ride, and the tubular steel framework allowed designers to bend the track almost any way they wanted. Morgan's son Dana runs his own coaster design firm in Northern California, Morgan Manufacturing.
With the roller coaster, we begin by discussions with the client to understand what kind of experience do they want to provide for their guests.
Morgan starts with a two-dimensional model.
Once that is done, then we do the math, basically.
Then he uses a special computer program to test the design.
What we do is very accurately determine the forces that the guest is going to feel in the neighborhood of 800 different locations on the ride.
If the forces are too great, riders might be injured. If too little, the ride might be boring.
I don't think I've seen this one before.
Detailed drawings of the final design are sent to the fabrication shop. Here, welders and machinists create the skeleton of the roller coaster. The process depends on secrecy. Having the biggest and best new ride is a very serious business.
Bragging rights, it means everything to a park. It means a lot to say you have the tallest, fastest roller coaster, or the biggest this, or the first of that. A big roller coaster can also mean a lot to a park itself. It's a identification. It gives them worldwide fame, and it's just very, very valuable.
A record-setting thrill ride can increase a park's revenue by more than 7% in its debut season.
Well, essentially, since the mid-'80s, there's been an arms race in amusement rides. Everyone wants to try to build the biggest, fastest, tallest, newfangled device that they can install and run to the public. If you come up with the latest craze and you can sell it, then you can sell a lot of them. You can make a lot of money as a ride manufacturer.
The world's first mega coaster premiered in 1989 when Ohio's Cedar Point unveiled the Magnum XL 200 with a 205-foot lift hill and a top speed of 72 miles per hour. Now, record-breaking mega coasters open nearly every other year, despite their $10 to $12 million price tags. Improvements in materials and engineering techniques allow designers to break the 80-mile-per-hour barrier. With rides like the 22-story Desperado at Buffalo Bill's Casino in Nevada, and its sister, the Steel Phantom at Kennywood Park in Pennsylvania. With lucrative contracts at stake, designers needed new ways to provide novel thrills. Their focus turned to changing how people experience the ride. Inverted coasters like Batman at Six Flags Magic Mountain in California and Cedar Point's Raptor dispense with the traditional car. Instead, passengers sit four across in ski lift type saddles that allow their feet to dangle freely.
That's probably the most unusual thing about it, is that element of insecurity, I guess you could say, of just being in the seat with your legs flailing in there.
Upside down 6 times, 4 different ways. What a rush.
You have to put put your feet flat on the floor. There you go. Why not?
Even scarier than inverted coasters are standing coasters. With a 13-story drop, Cedar Point's Mantis is one of the tallest and steepest stand-up coasters in the world. And the 52-degree drop is guaranteed to buckle the knees of even the most jaded coaster rider. Rides accommodate over 1,000 passengers an hour. No matter how good a 2-minute ride is, nobody wants to wait 4 hours or more to ride it. To meet the demand, multiple trains must operate on a single ride. Designers incorporate safety blocks to prevent collisions.
Essentially, you set up zones on a tracks area. The computer knows where the beginning and the end of these zones are, and it checks and makes sure that only one train can be in any one zone at one time.
A set of brakes guard the entrance and exit to every safety block. When the computer senses a train is stopped, it locks off the track section behind it with the brakes. If the rides aren't running, customers aren't happy, making the maintenance crew a vital component in the park's success.
Hey, Juan. We essentially operate 24 hours a day. In maintenance here, we work 3 shifts. We're around the clock, either pre-inspecting rides, getting ready to open, or we are operating and troubleshooting any problems that might come up during the day.
Ride operators perform pre-flight tests and visual inspections every morning. These high-tech rides also require elaborate annual evaluations completed during the off-season.
We go through a process called non-destructive evaluation, where we essentially look at all the components on our rides.
Every department feels the pressure to keep the rides running. But no matter how exhilarating a new ride is, designers must outdo their greatest achievements year after year. Because somebody, somewhere, is creating a way to top today's wildest ride. Coming up next, a 100-mile-an-hour joyride and a hair-raising 15-story fall. Since the beginning, thrill rides were designed to both exhilarate and terrify.
People like to be scared. They want to be safe, but they like to be scared, and that's important in the success of a ride.
Oh my God!
I think people like to ride roller coasters because of the excitement, the thrill of doing something that's not normal. High speeds, out in the open, heights. These are not everyday experiences for folks. And I think people like to experience that kind of stuff.
17th century Russian thrill seekers were the first to build ice-covered wooden sled hills. Empress Catherine the Great was such a fan, she ordered wheels put on her sled so she could ride during the summer as well. Eventually, the French added a loop to the bottom of these Russian mountains, and entrepreneurs charged both the fearless riders and the spectators that gathered to watch. The earliest American coaster was the Mach Chunk Switchback in Pennsylvania. This mining railroad charged $1 to ride the 18 miles from the mine's entrance to the bottom of the mountain at speeds close to 60 miles an hour. Later, New York inventors would build miniature versions of the Switchback for Coney Island, adding curves and dips.
There was an old ride, it was called the Flying Turns. An old Coney Island ride that I don't think you could call it safe. There were very few safety systems in those times.
In fact, reports of a death often increased a ride's popularity. Stan Checketts of S&S Amusements in Utah discovered a way to turn our fear into fun.
Of course, with this restraint system.
In the 1980s, Stan was one of the first bungee jump entrepreneurs in the United States.
The basis of the thrill to me is the adrenaline rush. It is really a motivating thing for me to stand at the exit of one of my rides and hear their comments.
Tell us when it's going to go, okay? Can't tell. No one knows?
When they come off, they're not even really themselves. They're different people for a while there.
Oh my goodness, okay, we're okay.
And so I had this idea, this called inspiration, to take a whole group of people and throw them straight in the air.
Stan's persistence paid off in a ride called the Space Shot.
To go in a second and a half and go from 0 to 170 plus feet in the air, that's an incredible thrill and a real rush for most people.
The most famous of Stan's Space Shot rides is located on top of the 120-story Stratosphere Tower in Las Vegas. It is almost impossible to match this ride's fear and dread quotient. The success of the Space Shot spurred Stan to look for new ways to amplify the thrills on his tower rides.
I wanted to have the anticipation, like the Space Shot is at the bottom. I wanted to have the anticipation in the air, so to take full advantage of the height of the tower.
Stan's reverse Space Shot, the Turbo Drop, takes riders on a 45-mile-per-hour 20-story plunge, accelerated by a blast of compressed air.
The anticipation of the turbo drop is what's neat, because you can get on that ride and go up slowly. And then that jerks and stops at the 180 feet. And then that anticipation grows, because you know any second this thing's going to blast towards the ground. Your hair flies in the air and you scream, am I going to live through this? Where does the fear thermometer in each one of us start? When we can go to that amusement park, we're not thinking about the computers, we're not thinking about the people back at the office. We're thinking about, what am I doing on this ride? Because it's scary enough that we have to pay enough attention. People want to be thrilled, they want to go higher, they want to go faster, and they want to be thrilled. I don't think that'll ever change.
Six Flags Magic Mountain in California uses a cutting-edge propulsion system for their Superman ride. A 6-ton passenger car rockets up a 40-story tower at 100 miles per hour, coming to a momentary stop before the car and its contents fall back to Earth at the same speed they went up.
Words cannot describe it. My stomach is still up there right now.
The most difficult element of the whole ride was the power system. To come up with a system that could propel a 12,000-pound car of 0 to 100 miles an hour in 7 seconds.
No conventional propulsion system could meet Blackie's needs. However, the cutting-edge technology being tested to power aircraft carrier catapults could.
The technology is what we call a linear synchronous motor.
These motors use magnetic repulsion and attraction to push an object forward or cause it to stop.
Okay, in simple terms, this is how this machine works. On the car are two rows of what we call rare earth magnets. To kind of give you an example of the power, this creates a flux field between the north and south poles. It's almost like an invisible mechanical link that straddles the stators. And
a series of electromagnetic motors in the track called stators interact with powerful magnets in the car's undercarriage. As each motor is fired, it creates a magnetic wave that propels the car forward. The motors fire in reverse to slow the car to a stop. However, this experimental technology was untested, and Blackie struggled for months to get the ride to travel at the 100 miles per hour he designed.
when we first wrote it, because of our technical problems, it went about 4 miles an hour, so it wasn't it wasn't so fun.
But when it finally opened, Superman offered unprecedented speed and the longest free fall on record.
Well, I think that actually there's a lot more of that involved in these parks than people would ever imagine. The technology is quite state-of-the-art.
Our insatiable appetite for farther and faster drives ride designers to build us higher and higher heart-stopping falls. When it comes to thrills, too much is never enough. Coming up next, the secret to our ultimate park experience. The anxiety, the fear, the adrenaline rush, all the things you remember about your favorite experience are no accident. Designers call this the ride experience. From the moment you enter the park, designers are directing your natural psychological and physical reactions to draw you to a ride. The distinctive roar of Six Flags Magic Mountain's Superman ride is heard throughout the park. The 40-story ride is designed to be big and loud and to grab your attention.
You can't miss it, regardless of where we would have placed it, you would have seen it.
Other strategies to get you in line include extending a portion of the track over walkways. Once riders are lured into line, that wait time is used to pump up enthusiasm.
So if you imagine you're standing in line, you can hear people screaming, you get excited, you're full of anticipation, and that's activating your sympathetic nervous system. So your heart rate's already going faster, your veins in your legs are constricting to maintain your cardiac output, to maintain blood flow to your vital organs. And so once you get on the roller coaster, you're already sympathetically activated.
This fight or flight syndrome is our body's response to perceived danger.
Psychological and physical stress will produce many, if not all, of the same physiological responses in our body.
Coaster experts know this anticipation actually makes the ride more pleasurable and more thrilling. Once aboard, it's time to deliver the really big thrills. Fighters to feel like a fighter pilot, an astronaut, and a Hollywood stunt driver, all in about 2 minutes. Every year, Bob Coutts teaches his high school physics class how these rides deliver those feelings.
Magic Mountain is a great place to explain physics because they can feel this stuff. You live the physics. You need to know what inertia is for all of these rides. Inertia is a reluctance of mass to change.
And manipulation of inertia is the basis of theme park thrills.
Let's take all this stuff out in the hallway and see what we can do. And you might imagine yourself being one of these ping pong balls, riding on the ride out at Magic Mountain. You ready? Okay, here we go. You don't have to move. They're only little ping pong balls. And so here it goes. And they go flying. And you know what? Oh my God, the cups on top of the cart, they fell too. Why did the cups on top of the cart fall? Inertia. Because they had inertia. Viper's a great example of inertia. The first thing that happens is there's this big, long straightaway downhill. And when you get to the bottom, inertia says, hey, I like going straight down. I want to keep going straight down. But of course, the track says, no, you're going to go up.
The conflict between the body wanting to continue in one direction and the coaster pulling it in another creates the feeling of a tremendous pressure, pushing us back into our seats. Rapid changes in direction can have the same effect as rapid changes in speed.
Now this time, I'm not going to slow down. I'm going to keep going. But I'm going to keep going in a way that you may be surprised about. Okay, you ready? Here you go, at high speed, and... Okay. Now, I didn't change speed. What did I change? Direction. I changed direction.
Designers also manipulate the effects of G-forces to heighten riders' thrills. The G in G-force refers to gravity. 0 Gs means zero gravity, or a feeling of weightlessness. 1 G is equivalent to your normal body weight on Earth. 2 Gs is twice your weight. Negative Gs describe the sensation of lifting up away from your seat.
On a ride, you know, G-forces are a measure of the sort of the violence of the ride, or the thrill factor of the ride.
However, there is a downside.
The new roller coasters, with their big changes in G-forces and with the large banking turns, will produce mismatches in that information that's coming from the ears and the eyes and the other parts of the body, and will produce what we describe as motion sickness.
Under extreme conditions, multiple positive and negative G-forces can have more serious effects on the body. Fighter pilots wear computer-controlled flight suits to keep from passing out during radical maneuvers. But most park rides only approach these high G-forces for fractions of a second. Superman's 6.5-second freefall is the perfect place to test the sensation of weightlessness on 0 G rides. One of the physics students will release an orange at the top of the ride. Under zero-G conditions, the orange will seem to float in midair.
We go on roller coasters basically because it's a thrill-seeking behavior and is probably associated in the brain with the release of what we call endogenous opiates, which are called endorphins, and those may be why it's such actually a pleasurable experience.
By manipulating our minds and our bodies, ride designers have engineered the clammy palms, churning stomachs, even the grin we take away with us. It's all part of the science of thrills. Coming up next, the architect behind your day at the park. The happy chaos of the amusement park is an illusion. Parks are carefully constructed to make you feel safe, comfortable, and spontaneous. Every French fry break, every bench to rest tired feet, the bathrooms, the phones, the ATMs for extra cash, even the first aid station. All of it has been constructed to produce a carefree day of entertainment by amusement park master planners. Ira West is the president of Dual Corporation, the largest theme park master planning company in the world. Planning an amusement park begins with calculating what the park's attendance will be on an average day.
Well, that's the magic number to us. When we know how many people are in the park, that tells us what kind of ride capacity we need, what kind of food capacity, how big to make the park, how much space the public needs. All of this information we've gathered over the number of years we've been in business, and it's not available in books. Rides coming around in this fashion.
Dual has formulas for everything from how many food operations a park needs to what kind of ride should be placed where.
We need some more sketches. The advantage we have is we've done about 40 parks. We know how much space an individual takes. We know how long a person is willing to wait in line. You design for about 20 minutes. And most people can handle that.
West also directs the development of the park's theme.
Theming. That's boy, that always becomes the hottest topic. Most clients are somewhat obsessed with the theme. The theme gives you a storyline. It's a starting point. If we didn't have a theme, we wouldn't have an architectural treatment. So we have to create a theme to know what to make a building look like.
West's solution to prevent bottlenecks and boredom is the dual loop.
The loop creates a condition where a person doesn't have to make decisions. They can just walk. They get to see everything. They experience everything. They can't get lost. They always come back to where they started.
The average dual loop is between a half mile to a mile in length and takes 6 to 8 hours to cover, the same amount of time the average family spends at a park. Six Flags Magic Mountain showcases West's classic design elements.
When we plan a park like this, we take special pains to be sure that people can't see very far ahead into the park. We create plazas like this. We create gentle turns so that we restrict the distance you can see. And as you move from area to area, you discover new things in the park.
Thank you.
There's a lot of scientific development that has gone on in the design of main gates over the years, a lot of careful research. We found from experience that people that come early are a little hungry, so they like some pastries, coffee, Coke.
Wes divides the park into areas, each with their own variation on the overall theme and their own signature rides.
This particular area we're in is the Monterey Landing. And this area, being one of the farthest areas into the park, also has one of the larger food operations. This is about where people start to get hungry when they walk through the park. It takes 2-3 hours to get back here, so you have to provide more food service for a lot more people.
For 80% of Americans, a major theme park is less than 3 hours away. While there is little room for new parks in the U.S., Dual is kept busy with overseas clients.
Well, in the last 4 or 5 months, we've gotten more calls, and it's worldwide interest.
Spain project.
The park planning process often spans 2 years or more.
When the opening day comes, we go there and we watch all those people come in and find out what kind of job we did.
Another secret behind a perfect day at the park is a well-trained staff. Cedar Point uses a visual board to train their ride operators to deal with unusual situations. Occasionally, the highly sensitive switches that monitor the car's position will temporarily strand a car on the track. Christine, the senior operator on this shift, keeps the riders entertained and relaxed while the ride is reset. In a few moments, the riders happily continue on their journey. Because of the deafening sound on the ride platform, operators must use hand signals to communicate. Part of being a ride operator is dealing with the unexpected human element.
Whenever we get a kid that's afraid to ride, we're like, here you go. This ring has ridden every morning with me for 2 months. I've never lost it. It's always brought me back safe. Where, they're so absorbed on trying to hold on to this ring, they're not even thinking they're on the ride. And then they get back and they're like, I just rode the Mantis. Wow, the ring works.
The hardest part about it is when you get a guest who's like really unruly, really irate, and you have to try to calm them down.
I can't hold it, but what you can do is you can step out and go put it in the box over there.
Where if you're happy, you're excited, you get the people pumped up and enthused. The day goes a lot faster, they're a lot happier, and they just have a better day.
Theme parks are designed and choreographed with a single focus: to make you happy. When we come back, a glimpse into the future of amusement. In recent years, the computer has transformed the future of amusement. While you still have to drive outside the city to a traditional theme park, the amusement venues of the future are just down the street. This is the world of virtual reality games and arcades, where you can shush down an alpine slope or race 120 miles an hour at the virtual Indy 500 without ever having to leave the building. Located in the heart of Times Square, XS New York is one of the world's largest arcades.
It's great, man. Great place to hang out after work, relax, play some games.
Offering 20,000 square feet of high-tech entertainment, this doesn't look like the amusement parks we grew up with. Nevertheless, they have a lot in common.
My background's 14 years within the theme park industry. I started when I was 15 years old at a great adventure. Comparison between Access and a theme park, it's the same thing.
Except this park requires a lot more gigabytes to keep it going.
The amount of computer power that we use here is the same as the amount of computer power used on the space shuttle, which is staggering, I think.
Like traditional amusement parks, virtual theme parks need to create a friendly environment.
You can play a virtual reality game here for free on the main level. You can play Cyberback, you can play Total Recoil, you can go on the hang glider. What would it be?
VR salesperson tells everything about the VR experience. They tell who makes it, what happens. They teach everybody how to play the game.
Any questions? Yeah, both of them do the same thing.
Hey, it's great. We played like 6 games already. A lot of fun. You know, I mean, they're very, very virtual. This game is excellent.
Competing with Excess New York is the New York Skyride. It's a breathtaking flight through the skies and streets of New York City. Creating the visual sensation of flight makes the experience fun for riders.
We strapped the camera to almost anything that would move. Everything from go-karts to motorcycles to camera cars to cranes on top of cranes.
The difference between a regular movie and a ride film is in how the audience watches it. These viewers fly through New York visually and physically with the assistance of a platform that moves their seats on 3 axes. The platform has to move in perfect sync with the on-screen images, or passengers will experience motion sickness.
A lot of what makes a really good simulator ride believable is really good motion platform programming. You sit there and you try and feel every movement of the camera.
Shooting the movie and programming the platform was the first stage. Next came the installation of the 6-ton ride inside the Empire State Building.
We did things to that building which nobody ever dreamed of we would do. We took steel out of the building. We had to remove the 3rd floor in some of the areas in order to create room for this enormous screen, which is 18 foot by 18 foot, and to create room for the simulators.
As technology drives the future of amusement parks, the good old-fashioned wooden roller coaster may face extinction. Built in 1991, Cedar Point's Mean Streak is one of the tallest, fastest, and most complex wooden coasters in the world. It's also one of the newest. Dave Schmids leads a team of carpenters who walk every foot of track on the Mean Streak each morning, all season long.
We usually look for loose bolts that we have to drive in and retighten.
Wooden coasters require more than 6 times the maintenance of steel coasters. And fewer wooden coasters are built every year. But for die-hard wooden coaster fans, there's no replacement for an American classic. On an early spring weekend, coaster enthusiasts descend on Conneaut Lake Park in northern Pennsylvania to christen the newly restored Blue Streak built in 1947.
Our very first date was here. We fell in love here, especially on the Blue Street.
With so many loyal fans, it's hard to imagine the original wooden thrill rides that started it all will disappear forever. For park owners, fun is a business, and their survival depends on the public going home happy and satisfied at the end of their day at the park.
One of our #1 goals is make sure all of our guests have fun. And we want them to have fun from the moment they get to the park till they leave. But we don't want them to worry about how we do things. We want them to just relax and have an enjoyable day at the park itself.
And that means the work of amusement park planners, ride designers, operators, and technicians must go on seamlessly inside the secret world of amusement parks.